Hey everyone, Fuzz here. Today I'll be telling you the story of Tommy the Troll Shagger. Enjoy. It's said that a character is defined more by their flaws than their strengths, and by that reasoning, Tommy was much more a result of the GM than the player. Now this poor fool was pretty darn green, and the character concept he wanted to play was something you would expect on a free-form board. Now what is talking about there are boards where you don't really have mechanical rules, just write whatever you fancy. He wanted to be a bard that was just so cool that everyone loved him even as he was killing their buddies. He wanted this character to be the center of attention in every fight, with everyone stopping to watch when he did incredibly awesome stuff. And at the end of the fight, hot chicks would come over and ask for his autograph, because he was just so cool. Now our GM did a lot of work to fit concepts into the world, but he did have a sense of balance, and demanded that Tommy's ridiculous strengths be evened out with a few flaws, or removed entirely, before he was put into the game. The player couldn't do it though. He just couldn't think of a way to make Tommy less awesome without ruining him. So the poor fool asked our GM to do it for him. This is the equivalent of asking a genie to word your wish for you. You're going to get messed up. Hard. So essentially what Tommy wanted was good first impression. Everyone who meets this character immediately likes them, adding a positive modifier to all social rolls. Amazing criticals. When you score a critical roll, everyone stops and notices. In combat, enemies who saw the critical must save or be dazed. Overawed. Enemies with a positive opinion of you will do reduced damage to you and try to avoid combat with you. Memorable. People easily remember everything about you and tend to talk about you. People will more easily recognize you from your description and remember your past exploits. What he got was polarizing first impressions. Everyone who meets this character immediately either likes them or dislikes them, adding a positive or negative modifier on all social rolls. This effect fades over time. I like that little addition on the end there. It allows him to not be constrained by the dice when it comes to social encounters. He can just kind of let his other players have a bit of a role play and then he could jump in. Seems pretty natural. I like it. Amazing criticals. When you score any sort of critical on a roll, everyone stops and notices. In combat, everyone who saw the critical must save or be dazed. Over/underawed. Enemies with a positive opinion of you will do reduced damage to you, and try to avoid combat with you. However, the addition is, enemies with a negative opinion of you will prefer to target you. And memorable. People easily remember everything about you and tend to talk about you. People will more easily recognize you from your description and remember your past exploits. This one didn't change. The sucker had no idea what he was asking for. Now the revised rules weren't that harsh. It just changed Tommy from being inherently totally frickin' sweet to being a character who was very hit or miss, both socially and in combat. I think a clever or careful player could have made it all work perfectly. Tommy's player was neither careful nor clever. He wanted to be some sort of fantasy musical Austin Powers. Instead, he wound up a lot like Trout from Shadowrun Storytime. Now that's a set of stories we'll read in the future. It's a long one, so it'll definitely be in multiple parts. So Tommy was supposed to be the smoothest guy you ever met. In fact, the second you saw him, you were supposed to go, "Wow, what a smooth looking guy. I bet he's incredibly awesome." This was manifested as a flat bonus to everything social, because Tommy was just so awesome. Except, RGM gave it a 50% chance to backfire. So, half the people who met Tommy immediately thought he was the bee's knees, while the other half thought he was an incredible tool. It wasn't a big enough bonus to make all his social checks a 50-50 chance, but it meant Tommy had to watch for it. If he made a good or bad impression before he started forward, he could be in for a nasty surprise. Tommy didn't remember to do this. The result was that Tommy critted a lot in social situations, and everyone noticed when he crit, and they remembered it, and they told their friends, and those friends recognized Tommy the second they saw him. So when Tommy suavely seduced a random chick at a bar, it was the talk of the town the next day. Likewise, when he tried to bluff a city guard and got kicked in the balls, everyone would be laughing about it at the bars that evening. This would lend itself to a very conservative playstyle, but unfortunately, Tommy was not conservative in the slightest. Tommy got his nickname at the start of the second adventure with him. We had just wrecked a magical laboratory that had been recklessly releasing dangerous monsters, one of which we kept, and had been lauded as the big damn heroes of the town that hired us. We grabbed the next plot hook and moved on to a fair-sized town to shake it down for evil cultists. We dumped all our stuff at the inn and split up to each pursue our own sources of info, which in Tommy's case meant hanging out at the bar, basking in residual glory from previous success. Following the bard's standard of practice, Tommy performed, drank, then found the hottest girl in the bar and rolled seduction. And he critted. The whole bar watched in either admiration or disgust as he suavely seduced her, and her friend, and took them to his room. Then they proceeded to tell just about everyone they knew about it. The rest of the party returned, pooled their info, and before going to bed, handled a minor disturbance when the party pet transformed from a dog into a goat. The party pet needs some explaining. You see, he was a friendly dog that randomly transformed every few hours who we called Shoggy the Seldom Dog. I'm going to read that story to you guys later. It's another classic. There wasn't much rhyme or reason for his transformations, and at that point, we had assumed two things. That he reverted to being a dog after every transformation, and that transformations happened about every 12 hours. On this basis, we felt that simply putting Shoggy the goat into the stables for the night would be fine. 4 hours after we deposited our goat in the stables, Shoggy transformed into a troll and started a panic. The panic immediately woke the party, and while everyone else was grabbing their gear and trying to figure out what was up, Tommy leapt from his window, landing between the angry mob that was being led by the local guard captain and Shoggy the troll. After quickly assessing the situation, he decided to calm everyone down with a joke, and loudly proclaimed, "Gentlemen, gentlemen, calm down. That's no troll. That's my wife." Unfortunately, the guard captain thought the half-naked bard looked like a smug little prick, and did not take the line in the same spirit that it was delivered. He reached for his truncheon with a mutter of, "Wife, eh? We got a word around here for your sort of people." This is where a smarter man would have changed tactics, or tried to talk to someone else in the crowd, or waited for help. Instead, Tommy decided to go for another attempt at diplomacy. He began to explain that it was all a joke, and that there was a reasonable explanation for everything, when someone in the crowd yelled, "Hey, that's the guy who bearded Jenny." And Tommy retorted with, "No, it was Jenny and Samantha." This would later turn out to be the guard captain's daughter and niece respectively. Shoggy and Tommy were chased around town by an angry mob and a vengeful guard captain, and only timely intervention of the rest of the party kept him from getting curb stomped. The entire group was ran out of town and had to relocate to the next town over to continue their hunt for the evil cultists. The party was smart enough to tie Shoggy outside the town this time, but we hadn't planned on how memorable Tommy was. Everyone stared at us as we entered town, and before long we started seeing wanted posters with a perfect likeness of Tommy's face that read, "Tommy Troll Shagger, wanted for inciting panic, resisting arrest, and bestiality." Tommy was sent back to the camp to hang out with Shoggy. Tommy lasted surprisingly long, and after a rough start, his player gamed with us for a long time. Unfortunately, while the player did get better, Tommy never did. For every success he had, there were usually 2 spectacular failures. and being easily identifiable is not a survival trait when fighting mysterious evil cults. In the end, he died how he lived, as the center of attention. Except in this case, it was the attention of 5 different archers sent to kill him while he did a public performance. But even as he stood there, full of poisoned arrows, he succeeded his concentration check and finished his piece before he died. However, before he met his rather messy end, Tommy brought a great deal of humour to our group. His awesome crits led to several instances where the entire fight would stop and watch as he pirouetted through the air and beheaded an enemy. Or alternatively, when he tripped over a chamber pot and landed crotch first on the corner of a table. In these situations, it was always a plus. Most of us would save against being dazed, and most enemies wouldn't. No one could fail a diplomacy check quite as spectacularly as he could either. You could wear a Nazi armband to a bar mitzvah and still be less insulting than Tommy could be by accident. So there you go. That's the story of Tommy the Troll Shagger. I hope you enjoyed the narration. If you did, we'd appreciate a like, or we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already. As always, have a good one.